Welcome to the Kitsap Literary Artists and Writers of Washington with our monthly Authors Showcase. My name is Mark Miller. I'm going to be your host tonight. Tonight we also have with us, as a guest, Dianne Gardner. How you doing tonight, Dianne?
I'm fine, Mark. How are you?
Pretty good. We're here tonight with the local authors, Dianne Gardner, at the BAKAT Public Access Studios, and I want to once again give our great thanks that they're able to have us do this here at the studios, because it's giving us an excellent venue for a lot of local authors like Dianne. I thought I would start out mentioning the fact that you're not just an author, you're also written screenplays, you're a playwright, and you're an artist, and a very good artist. I like your painting. Can you kind of tell us which one of those facets you got started with first?
I was an artist from the very beginning. I used to play around with my mother's oil paints, and so I've pursued an art career ever since I was little. I mostly do portraits. I'm a portrait artist. I paint in oils. I also do some landscape, some plein air painting as well. So that's what I started off doing.
And I understand that the artwork on your books is your artwork.
Yes, these are all originally done as an oil painting. This one with the dragon is a 9-foot by 4-foot oil painting. It's 3 panels, and I take that to book signings and things. I also have a book called Paraka, and I did an oil painting of this book for the cover. The other ones I've put together in Photoshop. There's camera work and.
What led you into the other facets of the art world? You said you started out in painting. What led you into writing books and screenplays and then a playwright?
I've always been, being a painter, I've always been creative. That's, been one thing that I've done. I've written a lot of poetry when I was younger. Writing has always been a passion of mine as well. I just never pursued it, as a child. And then one day in the wintertime when I was painting, I decided that I wanted to write a novel. And so I did, and that's when the dragon came about, because I wanted to paint a dragon and write a novel about a dragon, and I couldn't just paint a dragon just, to show it in a gallery or something like that. I didn't figure that would go over very well. But as I was painting the dragon, I came up on this story, in my heart, in my imagination, of a little boy that was going to conquer the dragon. And so that's how my first novel started.
So you not only were painting with paints, you were also painting with words.
Correct. Yeah.
Good. And so that was, and the name of that first book is?
The Ian's Realm Saga.
Okay.
It was Deception Peak, and it's a series, and I had 3 books that were published before, and I've since put them in 1 volume. So it was Deception Peak, The Dragon Shield, and Rubies and Robbers are all in this volume right here.
Now, is that also connected to this newest book or newer book, Cassandra's
correct.
Castle?
This is the first 3 books. Diary of a Conjurer is book 4, and Cassandra's Castle is book 5.
Okay. I started reading Cassandra's Castle, and I wanted to delve more into that one. And I want to read just a very short excerpts from Cassandra's Castle. Cassie, this very first chapter. Daydreaming again, Cassie? Her mother's voice sounded no kinder than an alarm clock. Isn't it enough to be trapped in a mundane and uninteresting world, Cassie thought as she watched her mom read? Why shouldn't I be allowed to daydream? Would you say that then, and for this specific story, the idea of Cassandra daydreaming kind of set the whole tone for the rest of the story?
Yeah, exactly. Cassandra wants to be someplace else. She, in the whole story, she's Ian's daughter from the Ian's realm.
Right.
And Ian told her all the stories of his adventures in this portal that him and his father went through.
Which includes the
dragon.
Computer,
correct, yeah, which included the dragon. And she was fascinated ever since she was a child. And so she's got kind of an envy towards her father, because he's now a creative artist for a movie production company, and he's always in a different realm. and she wishes that she could go into the same portal and have those same experiences that her father did.
So you're definitely going into the idea of not only a mental realm, but also a change into a physical realm also.
Yeah, she actually goes through a portal. It turns into being a time warp. So it's time travel.
Okay. I've dealt more with writing hard adult type science fiction and thrillers and stuff like this because I was in law enforcement for many years. And I'm kind of envious about the fact that you have an excellent ability to write for young adults. And I was wondering, how did you start writing in that genre for young adults?
Well, you might say that I never really grew up in my heart.
Okay, nothing wrong with that.
But I also have 16 grandchildren. And at the time when I was writing Ian's Realm, I felt that the boys, especially, girls read all the time. A lot of girls read. But boys, it's harder to get them interested in a book. And my grandsons were 13, 14 years old. And I talked to them about, what kind of book would you want to read, And they like the fantasy. They like going into a different world. And this story in particular is about a coming of age. It's a coming of age story. And I had a passion for these young men who want to become men, and yet they're really misunderstood at that age, mostly by their parents because they still see them as little kids. And the boys want to start getting their identity. And that's what happens to this boy in this story. And so, and I didn't want to talk down to them. I wanted to talk on their level. So, that it just comes from a desire and putting myself in their place.
And so it's a coming-of-age book both for Cassandra and then the main young hero.
Right.
And what is his name?
His name is Ian.
Ian, okay.
Right.
And of course, Cassandra and Ian have to meet.
Well, Ian is her father, so yeah.
Oh, Ian's her father. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
Right. So this story, Cassandra's
Yeah.
18 years later after this.
Okay. But
So-
did she meet another young person, though, in Cassandra's castle?
She meets two young people. The story is that she goes into a time warp, or she time travels into a revolution that is basically fashioned after the 1908 Portuguese Revolution, when
Okay.
King Manuel II was exiled from Portugal. And that was the basis of that story. And I felt so when I was reading about this young man, I came across him when I was doing some genealogy for a friend of mine. And I felt so, and her grandfather was related to Portuguese royalty. And so I started researching Portuguese royalty and came across Manuel II, who was the last king of Portugal. And he was only 17 years old when his father and his brother were killed. He became king. He didn't know anything about being a king. And they eventually bombed the castle and exiled him to England. He never was able to go back to his home. I wanted to change the story a little bit. So I had Cassie go in, and she has this adventure where she ends up, when she first lands there in this time travel, she ends up with the rebels. And she gets coerced by them to join the rebellion, and then she finds out her mistake, and she falls in love with this young man who is representative of Manuel II. And eventually she has to find him and bring him back to fight for his crown. So that's the story. And yes, there is another young person, and they both have a coming of age and a both character arc that they go through.
So you literally, not only do you get some of the, I guess, spirit and ideas of your books, not only from, like you said, the young people around you, but also historically.
Right, yes. Yeah, I call this a historical fantasy.
I understand also that with Cassandra's Castle, you've been working on a screenplay.
We have been working on a screenplay. We actually wrote a screenplay for a feature film of Cassandra's Castle. And then we put together a company called Xylon Productions, LLC. And through the course of working this out, we decided to try to make it into a television series instead. So I've written the first 8 episodes of a television series The pilot actually won an award just a couple months ago in a film festival.
Which film festival?
It was the Indie Gathering in Ohio.
Oh, cool.
And we've won, we've been entered in 8 film festivals. We've won 3 awards from those film festivals for the trailer that we made. And so it's doing pretty good. We're just waiting for some financing and to develop it.
You have a copy of the trailer with you today.
Yeah.
And so we'll take a quick little look at the trailer. You say it's about a little bit over a minute and a half.
It's a little over a minute.
A little bit over a minute.
Yeah.
So let's take a quick look at that trailer right now and give you some idea of the audience, an idea of what Cassandra Castle is all about.
Okay.
Who are you?
I'm Cassandra Wilson.
The revolution is upon us. Too many people want power. Too many snakes slither their way to the throne. The walls rot from the lies and whispers told within. The king of Alcove Forest is gone. War is coming. I can feel it in the wind, in the trees. We are on the brink of doom. The uprising is here. No one is safe anymore.
And you and the audience have just seen the trailer for Cassandra's Castle. And one thing I wanted to point out, and I've talked it over with Dianne about this before, you have a lot, both in the book and, of course, the trailer, you've got a lot of fencing scenes, sword fighting scenes. And I was wondering if you could give me a little bit more of a background about that.
I would love to. When I was writing Cassandra's Castle, I knew that there was going to be a duel in it. Manuel II was a fencer, which is kind of, makes it kind of fun. And so I looked up Tom Martin of the Kitsap Fencing Center and sat down with him, and he actually helped me write the duel in the book. And then when we decided to film it, we've got our 2 actors, which was Sean Peck-Corrier and Hayden James, who play Valerio and Martine in the story. And Tom worked with them for almost a year, maybe even over a year, teaching them fencing and teaching them how to use their swords. And it wasn't just a matter of teaching them the moves, but he and I went through the characters of Valerio and the character of Martine to study how they would have fought, what their goal was, what their purpose was, and what weapons they used and how they would use those weapons. And so he was able to relate that to Sean and Hayden, and they worked really hard on working on those scenes, and I'm really proud of them.
The late great actor Christopher Lee, years ago, they had him on one of the many talk shows, and he was showing theatrical fencing, and he was explaining the difference between live fencing and theatrical fencing. And he made the statement that in theatrical fencing, you had to do all the flourishes and to make it look cool for the camera.
Right.
Is that also what you found out when you were doing this?
Yeah, Tom is actually a stage combat choreographer too, so he knew all that. And yes, there was a lot of difference. He needed to get the footwork down for sure, but as far as how they moved and their moves that they did during the filming and for the filming of the pilot also, they've been rehearsing. So
good. And of course, we all hope that it's going to go to feature film.
We're
Because
hoping.
I will say that for what some people would consider to be a quote-unquote web trailer, I think it looks a lot better than some of the stuff I see from Hollywood.
Thank you.
At least that's my, that's my opinion. But this is also a picture of the actress, correct?
That's Katie Rose.
Katie Rose?
She
Okay.
lives in Manchester, yeah.
Okay.
Manchester,
And
Port
she's,
Orchard.
of course, she's in the trailer
Yeah.
and everything. How did you, I guess, stumble upon Katie?
Well, we had auditions, and we had 78 people show up for our auditions.
Oh.
And Katie was one of them, and we chose her to be Cassandra.
So then you'd say in Kitsap County, you have a pretty strong artistic community, writing, acting, painting, and theater.
There are a lot of talented people in Kitsap County. Many, many, many talented people in Kitsap County. Actors, writers, filmmakers. It's pretty amazing. And I'm happy to have the opportunity to work here with other talented people in this area. I'd like to keep it local,
Yes.
you know.
One thing that I also saw from one of your works too was you started writing a play about a family of vampires. And I read the first, yes, there we go. I read the first scene from that play, and I would like to have you talk about that and maybe a little bit of a difference between kind of a compare-contrast screenwriting, playwright, and book writing.
Oh, okay. Well, the story is The Unconventional Mr. Peedlebody. And it's a satire, it's a little farce that I did. It kind of came about me being kind of snarky about selling books. As well, maybe I ought to just write a vampire book.
There you
because
go.
That's what's selling, So I did, and it came out. It's very humorous. It's a funny story. It's about a dysfunctional vampire family trying to solve a mystery.
So they don't shimmer in the sunlight.
No. The two of them really don't want to be vampires, so they're doing everything they can to not be vampires.
Okay.
So,
And you've actually got the final book, and so you're trying to adapt the book into a theatrical production.
Yes, I did. I started writing a stage play, and I
Yeah.
entered it in the Veer West Screen Festival competition in Seattle.
Okay.
And it won Best Mystery. And so I was really happy about that. I only got to Act 1, but
Cool.
I plan on finishing it up, and hopefully maybe get some local theater groups to perform it, maybe even have it filmed.
Okay, and then we could then have our own little vampire series set in Port Orchard.
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be cool. So, what do you kind of see for your future? I mean, do you have any other projects you're kind of planning on? I know, of course, you've got the movie and everything, but is there anything else that you're looking out way out into the future possibly?
Well, I'm just writing. I mean, I've got a lot of work right here, so this is my future here. We've also talked about making Paraka into a VR movie.
Oh,
I have
okay.
someone that's looking at that.
Now, is that part of the series, or is that different?
No, that's a completely different story.
Okay, and what's the difference between that and the Cassandra's Castle series?
Well, it's a fantasy story. It's about mermaids, and
okay.
it has an element to it that is environmental, because it's seeing the life of a dolphin and marine life through the eyes of a mermaid, and how they would relate to mankind. What would mermaids think of us
Yes.
if they existed, and the way we treat marine life? So,
Okay. We really appreciate you being here and everything. And I also know that you've have a lot of other things that you're interested in, like you said, the environment, and also I think you're interested in some ideas and things to do with Native American tribes and things like that. So, would you have anything else that you'd like to add? Because you've got a little bit of a soapbox here. So, if you've got something another project you're working on that may or may not be in the arts.
I don't have any other projects working on this. Not in
Okay.
the
You've got enough already.
I've
Okay.
got plenty.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So, is there anything you care to add?
just that, right now I've got another book in the works that I'm trying to get an agent for, and that's another historical fantasy. It takes place in Ireland during 1921 Irish Revolution. But after I get all that squared away, I'm going to start working on the screenplays some more. I still have to finish the screenplay for Cassandra's Castle and for the Unconventional Mr. Peabody.
Well, if you're going to have an Irish story, you got to have a banshee.
You talked to me about that before.
Okay, yes, I know. You got to have a banshee. So, once again, I'd like to appreciate Dianne for you coming here today for this interview. I think the audience is probably well aware of the fact that you're not only just a triple threat, you're a quadruple threat when it comes to the artistic world. I don't think I see a lot of other people with the ability to I guess, juggle all these different genres and do it well. And I personally think you do it well from what I've read and everything. I also like to thank the BKAT Public Access Television station here for providing us this excellent venue where we can have this monthly meetings with audience and the authors, and so we get to know each other out here in the community.
Thank you.
And with that, I hope everybody out in the audience had a very pleasant day. And always remember that BKAT is here for you, the viewing audience. It is a public access television station. It is here for the public of Kitsap County. Good day, and have a pleasant tomorrow. One thing that I know a lot of people have questions about, because you have quite a few books that you've actually got in print. Could you give us a little bit of a rundown on what you had to go through to get published, and also then your books actually in print?
Okay, as I mentioned before, the Ian's Realm Saga used to be 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
Those 3 books, I queried a publisher, a small press. There's a lot of small presses out there. And they accepted it. They accepted the series and published those 3 books. However, after a couple of years, they ended up folding and gave me my rights back. So I went ahead and self-published my books. So all of these books that you see here right now are self-published. I went through CreateSpace, which is an affiliate of Amazon.com. And it's a very simple process. The books are print on demand, and you just purchase them as you need them. And you can also take your document and publish it on Smashwords. These are also on Smashwords, which will publish on Barnes & Nobles and Kobo and iTunes and several other smaller companies online.
Has your using those venues been fairly successful in reference to book sales and things? Or?
What makes them successful is the marketing.
Yes.
And marketing is very difficult. There's a lot of books out there, and there's a lot of authors out there. So it's a struggle to get it, to get your books marketed. But at least you can get them very easily made into a book.
Hi, I'm Peter Stockwell, a local author here in Silverdale, Washington, and a member of the Kitsap Literary Authors and Writers Group that is showcasing local talent here on the Bremerton Kitsap Access Television. If you are an author, a playwright, an actor, a songwriter, a poet who would like to have your talents shown and would like to expand your audience, we would like to talk with you. You can contact us at the information shown on the screen down at the bottom here. And if you happen to know anybody who has any of these talents, please call us, get a hold of us, so that we can then help to showcase their abilities, their talents. In the meantime, please check us out on BCAT, on your local cable channel, our Vimeo page, or on our YouTube channel. Thank you very much. This is Peter Stockwell.